acknowledgement to our partner, which is Bosweb Systems. They've actually really enabled some of the stuff that we've achieved. And I encourage those who aren't a member to actually join us, and certainly join us for breakfast tomorrow, and there's our website. Thanks.
Peter Carter is the CEO of Evidence Technology.
I've probably said enough, so I'll keep it really short. But I would like to take the opportunity just to, I think the theme here was, ideas for regional Australia in terms of how we can use this for our friends in Mudgee. I would love to come to the next Mudgee wine show remotely from Sydney. I've seen some fantastic examples of winemakers in other parts of the country, and they'll export a case of mixed product, and they'll invite an audience, and the cellar door will be sitting there explaining how they've done it and the techniques they've used. I would like, at the next road accident that I attend, that there's a standard procedure across the state, that the first person in makes sure that everybody's safe, the second person in provides a live video feed to emergency services. That would save lives. I'd like the NBN just to get on with the job. My personal view on this is I don't really care who does it, but I think the Australian community want to focus on the exciting things that will come as a consequence of this great investment that we're making. So my personal interest is to close down the debate about if and when and why, get on with it, and move on to the really exciting things. We've got other problems to solve. I've got to deal with this issue of augmented reality. How is a prisoner giving evidence in a court with a virtual view of his face, where he wasn't making eye contact with the judge, but it seems as though he was. We've got issues to do with avatars and the authentication of information that's been conveyed. There are many problems for us to solve that are much more important than whether or not we go ahead or not. So, my contribution to the discussion.
Thank you, Peter. You crammed a lot in. Joe Dennis, NBN. Yeah, sure. NBN.
Thank you very much, Peter. Just as my short presentation, some slides to help me here comes on the screen. I feel very, very privileged tonight. I'm not sure if everyone heard before Terry actually say that he was the man that invented Wi-Fi. So I feel very, very privileged to be amongst much more exalted company than I tonight. Some words to impart a little bit about business and the NBN. I want to talk a little bit about the infrastructure side of things, and just from a business perspective, what our short-term roadmap will enable over the NBN, and go on to talk a little bit about a case study, a regional case study that I think is fascinating, and talk a little bit about just some takeouts I have for regional businesses and the digital future. So one of the glories of building, I'm sure everyone has either heard Danny's quick introduction tonight or the presentation I gave this morning about the actual infrastructure that's going to go on and support all these whiz-bang things. One of the glories of starting from scratch and building the Rolls-Royce network is that we can actually design business, in this case specified products, to enhance what will already be an amazing piece of infrastructure from a bandwidth point of view. So up on screen I've got some examples of the types of things that we will offer business for a slight premium. Things like dedicated traffic classes, so over and above all the other noise going down the fibre, if you're a business and choose to pay a premium on your product, you can actually have traffic specified or prioritised, if you like. In this case, multi-line voice services, also extended levels of support, 1 hour response times, and a number of other business-grade products to come. On Friday, for example, we announced 1 gigabit down, 400 megabits up, which was a 10-fold increase from our previous offering of 100 megs. So we've got a really clear product roadmap that the infrastructure allows us to do weird and clever things over the top of. Just some SME facts that I find interesting. I travel around. I'm from a little village of 200 people near Wagga, and I find it horribly depressing to go back to Wagga. And I think at last count we've now got 29 storefronts empty on the main street. And one of the biggest challenges that regional Australia faces is population drift and online retail. And a really interesting statistic I found, in 2009 in Australia we spent $17 billion online, but 50% of that went overseas, and without any response from Australian business, small, retail, medium, etc., would we lose out on the $33 billion that's going to be spent by 2015 in 2 years' time. Interestingly though, wherever I travel around saying that regional Australia is being degraded by the internet and it's stealing jobs, less than 40% of Australian businesses have an online presence, which is a fascinating statistic in my mind, when I'm as guilty as the next person of buying Christmas presents from Taiwan on eBay because it is so easy. When I'm travelling around, I find it really difficult to shop. So, in my mind, whilst the internet is a fantastic invention, it's changed the way we live. It's also changing, our streetscapes and our local towns. So I would encourage those small businesses or retailers in the room to investigate ways that the internet can change your business model and tap into that $34 billion that we're going to be spending every year by 2015. Moving on to my case study, I find this fantastic. I'm not sure if any women in the room have heard of Bird's Nest, a retail clothing store based out of Cooma. One of those stereotypical stories. Fashion designer falls in love with farmer and moves to the middle of nowhere. Builds starts a clothing store. Cooma's only 6,000 people, and there's only so many race outfits that you can sell to let's say 1,500 mothers. So Jane Kay went online. She was selling several orders a week online. She's now selling 500 orders daily. 93% of her business is online. She employs over 100 people, and I think she is a model for the way we can adapt in the regions to the digital future. It's really worthwhile going on to have a look at her website. It's not your ordinary retail website. I think, in fact, not that I've spent much time on there, but you can, in fact, search by body shape, by style. I think, in fact, I've got up there, you can search for Yummy Mummy. Races outfits, cocktail outfits, and she's really revolutionised online shopping, and now she's shipping all over the world. So an example that it can happen in regional Australia. A lot of time today was spent talking about the cloud. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the cloud. In fact, I went home the other day to our farm, and my father, who can't work a microwave, but has just moved to an iPhone 5 and an iPad. He has to use his little finger to work the keys because his hands are too fat. But he started using the cloud. We use software, back paddock software, and that enables him to talk with our agronomist. In the very near future, download our spraying data. All our tractors now have GPS, but they don't talk to each other yet. So the organic evolution of these types of things are happening. I would encourage you, whether or not you may not even be aware that you're using the cloud. If you're using email, it's likely that you're using the cloud. And does anyone in the room not have an email address? So everyone is using the cloud, believe it or not. I'd encourage you, whatever sort of business you have, go and find someone who knows something more about this than I, and investigate whether you can move something online. One of my best mates, Stu Roddy, just moved to Newcastle. He's a carpenter, a builder, just started his own building company, has moved to online quoting with some really simple software. It's quartered the time that he spends after work quoting, and because he's a two-man operation, he spends more time building and can get quotes out quicker than his competitors, and he has tripled his incoming work just by his ability to quote more efficiently. So he didn't have to move his business online or get a whiz-bang website. He got some really simple cloud software built for builders, quotes really quickly, gets a quote as he's in there measuring. It's to his client, a day or two before his competitors. So look, some takeouts. I've probably gone over time. Everyone says it everywhere I go, but the NBN isn't a panacea. Don't wait for it to come. Yes, you can do things, lower your phone bills by switching to VoIP, but I wouldn't wait for it to happen. I think this week, this conference is more about the digital future rather than NBN. There are so many resources, or maybe too many resources out there. dbcde.gov.au has an amazing a plethora of resources for small business. An example I've got on the screen is MYOB and Google have teamed up to provide free websites for 12 months to small businesses with a really small operating fee to go on after that. I'd encourage anyone in the room who doesn't have a website, who's thinking about it, to perhaps look at that offering from Google. A Facebook account isn't the only answer. So many friends who own a hair salon or a cafe or a restaurant and have 7 people on their Facebook and wonder why it hasn't driven hundreds of people through their door. Research what I exist. I gave the example of the quoting, invoicing in the cloud. And lastly, that just the internet is changing our behaviours and what we expect. I travel, we all probably travel a lot with work here. It's really, really interesting to see the motels, for example, in country towns that have a mobile booking platform and those that have just a website that you've got to shrink and zoom and is impossible to use on an iPhone, not when you're driving, of course, when you've pulled over on the side of the road. So, look, I'm one of those people that if I can't do something in 3 clicks, I just go back to the start and keep moving to a motel until I can find one that can happen in 3 clicks. So, look, that's my takeout on small business and a bit of a glimpse of the digital future.
Thanks, Joe. Embarrassingly, I bought a pair of red boots, a scarf and a jumper for my wife in Bird's Nest online. It's a great store, great online example. We did a video for the department on the store. It's just wonderful. So the really important thing about a forum is you and asking questions, and I'm sure that what you've heard tonight has elicited a number of questions. So can we jump in? We've got microphones at the end of the rows. So who'd like to ask a question? Yep. What are we going to do? You're going to bring the microphone in? Yes.
Hi, my name is Michael McGrath. I'm actually not from this region, I'm from a nearby region, but I'd like to pose a question to the panel in general. I'm very heartened to hear that everyone seems to be all on board with the current NBN strategy and the plan that's in place. I guess my question is, often in the mainstream media, NBN is characterised in terms of the number of DVDs you can download per minute or per second or whatever. I personally don't think that's very helpful. I think it tends to dumb it down a little bit. What can we, and by we I mean the ITC industry, business chambers and businesses in general, what can we do to convince governments and the general public that there's more to it than that, and that it is actually worthwhile to continue with the plan as it is, rather than the alternative?